Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. This week I wanted to talk about some common emotions that people experience during an unplanned pregnancy. Now I know everybody experiences emotions differently, and in different situations we're gonna feel different. And in the situation of unplanned pregnancy, some people might not be phased at all. It might not surprise them. It might not be a stressful situation for them, but for some people like myself, it might come with a lot of negative emotions. It might be really difficult to come to terms with. In my own situation, I couldn't sustain myself. I relied on my parents for a place to stay. I was in college, I was working, and to have a tiny human thrown into all of that was really, really stressful and confusing. And what ended up happening because of that situation is I experienced four major negative emotions, which I wanted to break down and explain and share with everybody in hopes that they might help you understand what you're going through, or might name some of the emotions that you're feeling and you're not quite sure about. Having somebody else do this for me was super helpful. So the four emotions that I want to talk about in this video are fear, restricted excitement, guilt, and shame. The first emotion that I remember feeling is fear, and that even in a situation where you're perfectly capable of taking care of a child, it might be a little scary to find out that you're pregnant. It is not something to be taken lightly. It's a huge deal. So if you find out that you're pregnant and your first reaction is fear, maybe even if you're a little bit excited, but you're still scared, that's totally fine. In my own situation, when I found out that I was pregnant, I was faced with the reality that I was going to have to tell everybody that I had been having a sexual relationship. It was not something that I wanted to do, and it became a situation where I was no longer going to be able to hide it. Getting pregnant was definitely not part of the plan. My plan was I'm returning to a chaste relationship, this is all going to be behind me, and to find out that I was pregnant was really absolutely terrifying, and I knew that the whole world was not going to know, and there was no way that I could hide anymore that I had been in a sexual relationship. There are 100 reasons why you might be frightened when you find out that you're pregnant, and maybe another 100 if you find out that you're pregnant and it's completely and totally unplanned. So if you find yourself experiencing a lot of fear around your pregnancy, it's completely normal and nothing to worry about. The second emotion I was feeling is restricted excitement, or at least that's what I'm calling it. There's probably another name for it, but it just makes no sense to call it that to me. And so I was really afraid because I was pregnant, and that was just, as I said earlier, a terrifying prospect. But I was also really, really excited because I was growing a tiny human. Like, I couldn't even begin to fathom the idea that inside my own body there was a tiny child who was growing, taking shape, and I had created a life. Like, that was just so cool. And so I was excited. I was excited for my baby, but I felt like I shouldn't be excited. Like, I should rein that in, that this was not something to be excited about because of the situation. I kind of flip-flopped between being really scared. I was scared for his future, I was scared for my future, I was scared of what people might think of me, I was scared of what my parents would think, I didn't know how I was going to support him, and I would go from those thoughts, and then jump over into the excitement of getting to meet my baby. So on top of those two feelings, I was also feeling guilty. And this might seem like a strange emotion to feel when you get pregnant, but especially if it's an unplanned pregnancy, it is not strange and not out of the ordinary. And if you are feeling guilty in any way about your pregnancy, don't let that worry you either. There are 100 reasons that you might feel this way. I felt guilty because the relationship that I was having with my boyfriend is what initially caused us to become pregnant. And I knew it was wrong, I knew I shouldn't have been doing it, and then this was the result. And I was bringing my child into that, and I wanted to have been a better example for him. You know, I always wanted to be a mom, but I was hoping that my children have the example of a married husband and wife and to be born into a family, and not what was going on now. To clarify why I was really feeling guilty about my pregnancy, I want to go into a little bit about what the Catholic Church teaches about sex. As I mentioned before, I was raised Catholic. What ended up happening was I was not practicing a sexual relationship in the way that the church taught that it should happen. I was not married, and yet I was sleeping with my boyfriend. Before I found out I was pregnant, I was struggling with a lot of guilt around this, and guilt doesn't necessarily always have to be bad. A certain amount of it can actually be healthy because it can lead you to do better in your life, but the way I was using it was not a healthy way to use it. I guess I wasn't using it to my advantage. I was letting it control me and control what I did, and it actually kept me from doing better because I had just sunken so far deep and down into this idea that, well, I've already done it and I've already gone so far, I can't go back now. And no matter how many times we had tried to stop, we just kept failing again and again. And so I had let myself fall really deep into this sense of guilt, and it took me a while, and it took me getting help to get out of it, and then I was able to do better, and I was able to stop having a sexual relationship. However, when I found out I was pregnant, I kind of had a relapse of this, because now what had been between me, my boyfriend, and a priest, and us, and me and my boyfriend choosing to be better and leaving this behind, was now out there for the world to see. I felt like I was going to be judged by people, that I had let everyone down, that I was living a really simple life, and all of these ideas that I had floating around in my head just created this really horrible sense of guilt around my pregnancy. I also felt really guilty because by having this relationship with my boyfriend outside of marriage, I put my child into a position where they would not live with their father and had a very uncertain future where they could have a family that was together, and I didn't want to do that to my child. So once again, if you find yourself feeling guilty for any number of reasons around your pregnancy, don't worry about it too much. You're definitely going to need to work through it, but don't be afraid if it's there. The last emotion that I was feeling was shame. The most shame that I felt came from the way my parents had raised me. They had taught me what was right, they had taught me what was wrong, they had taught me what the Catholic Church viewed on this, and I agreed with the Catholic Church's teachings. I agreed with what they had taught me. And I felt like I had just taken all of what they had given me and thrown it back in their faces, and I felt so ashamed. I can't recall a time in my life where I felt more ashamed than when I had found out that I was pregnant. This is not the only reason to feel shamed during an unplanned pregnancy. Sometimes you might feel ashamed that you become pregnant because you're not in a good financial situation, or depending on how old you are when you have an unplanned pregnancy, there might be shame in that fact that you cannot hide it and everybody is going to know, and you may feel like you have done something wrong, and so you kind of end up carrying this shame around. Once again, something that you have to work through, but if you're feeling it, you have to accept it. Now that we've covered the 4 major negative emotions that I was feeling, and there are probably 100 other little ones that were going on, because having an unplanned pregnancy is an emotional roller coaster, and you never know what's going to happen. Every day is going to bring something different, and on top of that, you're having all of these hormones that are going to affect your feelings and are going to affect how quickly you can get through them, and how quickly you can control them, and how fast you recover. So it can be a really confusing time. I wanted to talk about one positive emotion, and this is going to sound like a cliche, because it probably is, but that doesn't make it any less true. The positive emotion is love. On top of everything else that I was feeling surrounding my pregnancy, all of these negative emotions, all of the fear, the shame, the guilt, I loved my baby. And that might be confusing to some people, because with all of these other emotions going on, how could you have room for this love? I really don't know. It confused me to no end how I could love this child so much, and I had never met them. I didn't know what they looked like. At the time that I found out they existed, they were like the size of a poppy seed or something. They were so tiny. and yet I loved them so much. And when you find out you're pregnant, that might not be your first reaction. That it definitely wasn't mine. It might take you weeks or months to get to this point. You know, a lot of people sometimes struggle with being angry with their unborn child or frustrated with them, and they can feel a lot of negative emotions towards their unborn child. I definitely didn't know what to feel towards my unborn child, and there were definitely times of frustration where I felt frustrated with them even though they were not to blame. They didn't choose to be put there. It was all my actions who put them there. I definitely had some frustrations towards them. But for the most part, I loved them. And as time went on, and the more that I realized how excited I was to meet my baby, and how excited and just how much love I had for them, that was ultimately what helped me a great deal to work through these negative emotions. But it's not just about you loving your baby. As people find out, you might be surprised with how many other people are going to love your baby. When I told my parents, they loved my baby. When I told my friends, they loved my baby. My boyfriend, in the very moment that he knew his child existed, loved his baby. And all of that, all of being able to know that they all loved my child, also really helped to get through these emotions. Once again, I was in a really lucky situation and really fortunate to be surrounded by so many people. All you have to do is find that one other person who shares your love for your baby, and they are going to help you. So now that we've gotten through that cliche and we know all of our major negative emotions, how do you get through them? For me, it took months. I'm in my 9th month of pregnancy and I still struggle with some of them. And I will probably struggle with them after I have the baby. The point is that I have gotten better. I'm not where I was in month 1 when I found out, but it's taken me 9 months to get to where I am, and I'm still not in a perfect place. I can think of 4 major things that really helped me to get through all of these emotions and any other negative emotions that you might be feeling. Number 1, you need support. It doesn't matter if you were trying to get pregnant, if you wanted a baby. When you find out that you're pregnant, that is a huge deal and is nothing to be taken lightly. Planned or unplanned, you need support. Because you're going to have questions to ask, you're going to have feelings you don't understand, your hormones are going to mess with you. You need to find support. That support can come from your partner, your husband, friends, family, your parents. And if you can't find it there are other resources. There is actually an entire religious order of sisters called the Sisters of Life who dedicate their lives to supporting women who find out that they're pregnant and have an unplanned pregnancy, because that's how important finding support is. This is not a journey that God designed us to go through alone at all. He designed it to be a journey for a husband and a wife to go through. And so you need to find support, because you're going to need somebody there to help you. If support has to come from a counselor, then let it. I have a counselor who I love, who's been helping me. I've been through 3 different counselors to find this one, because that's how many it can take sometimes. If you feel like you need counseling because you're facing an unplanned pregnancy, this is nothing to feel ashamed about or to be worried about or to feel like you're broken or anything. You're a perfectly normal human being who has had an out-of-the-world experience happen to them, and you might need a professional to help you. There is no shame in that. The second step is you need to open up about your feelings. I did not want to talk about what was going on. It was easy. I shouldn't say it was easy. I opened up to my mother and shared pretty much everything with her, and I tried to get out everything that I was feeling, but sometimes I just didn't have words. That doesn't mean that I gave up. I really wanted to sometimes I just wanted to close in on myself and not do anything, but I would not have lasted very long at all, and I would have become a very empty shell of myself. So it's very important to open up, and if you can't find the words to describe what you're feeling in the moment that you do, and all you can do is cry, then cry. That's part of opening up. And try again another time. Whoever your support person is, whoever you're talking to, you have to open up to them and let them know what you're feeling. In order for anybody to help you, they first have to know what you're feeling. So you need to open up. It is a really, really important step. I cannot stress how important it is to open up about what you're feeling. No emotion is too silly, too little, or too ridiculous to open up about it. If you're feeling it and it's hurting you and you're struggling with it, then you should be able to share it. The third step is to validate your feelings. Way too many times I would be feeling a certain way, and I would say to myself, oh, you're just doing this for attention, or this isn't real, you're just being dramatic. And I would come up with all these excuses to not share or to not let myself actually feel what I was feeling. And if you do that, there's no way you're gonna get through these feelings. You have to validate yourself. Once again, no emotion is too silly or too little or unreal. If you're feeling it, it's real. And let yourself feel it. Don't let anyone tell you that that's not what you're feeling. If anybody tells you that, they're crazy. They don't know what you're feeling. They're not you. You should be able to verbalize exactly what you're feeling, and it should be validated. It should not be taken lightly. Your emotions are true, and you should be able to feel validated in feeling them. You should never tell yourself that you're silly or that you're looking for attention or whatever if you're actually feeling these things. If this is true and this is going on in your head, if you think that it's true and you think this is what's going on, validate yourself. That's the way you're feeling. And the fourth step, and the last one, is to be patient. It's also the hardest step. Being patient with yourself, especially when you feel like you're on a timeline because you only have 9 months before baby comes and you want to be all better before they come, you're probably not going to be. And that's okay. The goal isn't to be better before baby comes. The goal is to be okay, to be working towards being better. And being okay does not mean that you're perfect. Being okay just means that you can function. And being okay means that you still have bad days. The goal is to get to a point where you can be open about your feelings, where you can accept help, where you have support, where you're validating yourself what you're feeling, and that you're patient with yourself and everything that's going on. It's a really hard place to reach, and it takes a lot of persevering, trying, failing, and it's going to take months. Your child might be a year old before you might feel great or like you have control of this, because you never know what's going to happen. And you have all of these hormones that are going on in your head. You like cut yourself some slack because they really mess with your feelings and your emotions. They can make things really confusing, more confusing than they already were. So be patient with yourself. This is something that I'm still working on. I just really struggle with. I have a tendency to become frustrated with the fact that I'm human and I can't just make the jump. But you have to be patient with yourself, and that's something I'm always telling myself. You need to be more patient with yourself. That's something that my boyfriend's always telling me, that you need to be more patient with yourself, that my mom tells me, because it is really important. I'm going to get there eventually, and I know I'm going to, so I don't know why I rush myself, or why I get frustrated with myself, but I do, and I have to remind myself to be patient. Through all of this, if you can find a moment to just cherish your baby, do it. And every time you find yourself feeling love for your baby, cherishing their life, stop everything and just feel that, because that's going to be the best thing for you. Also, take a moment to wonder at the amazement of what your body has done. As a woman, you have the privilege of carrying life. Without you, this child has nothing. you are this child's world. You are everything to this child. And they're going to love you. When they're born, you will be the world to them. You will mean everything to them, because without you, they have nothing. And just take a moment to cherish the amazing gift and beauty that is. Someone depends on you for anything and everything and loves you to the end of the world because that's how much you are to them. Whether you choose to keep your baby, or if you choose to pass them on to somebody who just is dying to be a mother and would give anything to be a mother, you are amazing because of what you can do, because you brought a life into the world. In the beginning of my pregnancy, I really struggled with all of these negative emotions. I still struggle with them. I still have to remind myself to be patient. But I have really come to see Amos, my baby, as a gift. As a beautiful, wonderful, amazing gift that I love to the end of the world, and I can't even begin to explain how much I love him, and that amazes me because he's not even born yet. And I already love him so much. And I know I'm going to love him more every day after he's born, and every day that I get to know him, every day I get to see his personality grow and see him grow, I know I'm going to love him even more. And that is just incredible, and I could never have asked for a more amazing gift. I hope that somebody finds this video helpful, and if nothing else, I hope it just lets you know that you are not alone if you're feeling any of these emotions, if you're feeling any way, really. Anything negative that you might be feeling towards your pregnancy, you are not alone. So many women go through this. Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you are interested in continuing on this journey with me through my unplanned pregnancy and meeting my baby, please consider subscribing. I am still learning how to make videos, and I'm trying to do better with everyone and make the quality better, and I'll get there eventually. This is only my third one, and I think maybe it's a little bit better, but we'll see. Thank you so much for watching.